and welcome to Finextra TV. Kindly joining us today is Caywood, Global Head of Digital Strategy for Barclays, and we're going to be talking about the State of Fintech. Hello Megan, it's good to meet you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, of course, thanks for having me.
So if the era of competition is over and collaboration doesn't result in efficient sharing of knowledge, how do you think a bank can work with a fintech?
So I'd say about 5 years ago, the conversation was very much that fintechs were coming to market and they were very much competing on banks, often with the higher profit financial products that they would serve. And so there was a fear of disintermediation. And for banks, there's often this terminology called dumb pipes. You know, they were being reduced to the infrastructure play and the KYC and AML and fraud and all of the kind of boring bits of banking that banks do to offer their services, but that's just a gateway to all of the other things that they can offer customers. So the fear was increased competition, new fintechs coming to market, the government supporting those post-financial crisis so that they could really come in and provide a new layer of competition and innovation for customers, which ultimately is a good thing, but quite scary for the incumbents, as you can imagine. Now we're in a place where the conversation is very much about collaboration, very much accepting that the way that technology has evolved, particularly with APIs, is that it means that companies no longer have to be all things to all people, and the diversity of businesses is a positive for everyone. So now the lens is very much on how can we integrate, how can we collaborate, how can we use the best of what you offer with the best of what we offer to provide it to customers. And really the vision is that the winner takes all is the company that does that best, that leans into the collaborative mindset to say, you know, what data and resources do we have to help customers find and access the other best products that they need to make better financial decisions, to manage their finances, to have that clarity and confidence around their finances that they used to might lack, or around the fact that previously financial services often has lots of processes, lots of manual form filling, lots of just broken and time consuming elements to it. And now we can use technology to simplify that. So it's all about improving things for the customer, but through collaboration.
Well, following on from that quite nicely then, how do you think banks can best provide, you know, good services and products to their customers? Is it offering new trendy services such as AI, or is it sort of mimicking the neobanks?
Yeah, well, I think what the neobanks have done brilliantly well, obviously I'm biased because I used to be at Starling, but it was looking at like, what are the pain points of customers? How can we solve those really well? And so to begin with, it's all of the basics of banking. It's opening a bank account, it's making payments, it's having insights into where your money is going in real time. And so banks should absolutely be looking at how do we also improve our user experience? Because the reality is, post-financial crisis, banks just weren't keeping up with technological change as much as the new consumer tech companies that were coming to market and building upon the iPhone that launched and Android that launched right post-financial crisis. So I think there's very much the vision that banks need to improve on the user experience in order to compete and solve those pain points in similarly delightful ways. Now, taking that a step further, the beautiful thing about like AI and machine learning is it gets us to that next step of innovation, the parts that like everyone's just now at the forefront of, including the challenger banks. And that's really leaning into data and insights, but as a bank, when you talk about data, it's not like a Google in terms of how do we use it to advertise. It's how do we use it to play it back to the customer to benefit them? How is it that we enable them to own their own data and share it more securely if they want it to? Or if they don't want to, how do we help them to manage that? So it's very much shifting the view of what banks do and how they offer it, what's the delivery channel like mobile, but also what's the business model around it. So it's all very much evolving in terms of the basic fundamentals like neobanks do, as well as the higher order things like AI and machine learning.
Sure, and how important is sort of the reputation of a financial institution? Do you think it is important for a bank to stay afloat?
Yeah, I think for a long time, the kind of defense mechanism of banks towards fintechs was, but we're the bank, everyone trusts the banks. And that is true, but the reality is that the new challengers that are coming to market, they get the full banking license, they can also insure customer deposits. But the reality is that we all take customer trust very seriously. And whenever you have a data breach or some type of loss of access, customers really respond to that. And so certainly here at Barclays, we're very much wanting to maintain that trust, maintain that relationship, and the fact that we're, you know, a 320 some odd year old bank makes it that much more important to continue that kind of established relationship we have with customers. So certainly it's at the heart of what we do, but we don't take it for granted that we just have it because we're a bank.
All right, and how can banks help fintech firms best innovate post-sandbox stage? Is it through investment and funding, or what else?
I think the real key is just looking at opportunities to integrate with each other. How is it that banks can integrate in these third parties into their banking app? From banks becoming very closed, siloed businesses to having an open infrastructure, what does that look like and how can they integrate with them? But also very much when you look at these sandboxes and you look at open banking and PSD2, it's really exciting, but a lot of people have criticized it, saying that it hasn't taken off to date as much as we would have thought. But genuinely, APIs are just a plug-in cable between two different pieces of software, and you have to build the company first before it can do interesting integrations, right? So there's a chunk of work you have to do before the APIs can be used meaningfully. So I think we're at this nice point now where the API has been manifested, use cases have been brainstormed, there's lots of fintechs who are innovating on them. But the next stage of that, in terms of bringing them to market, I think is really looking at how do the banks and fintechs find those complementary ways that they integrate with each other. So banks can, create these types of accelerators, like Techstars has Barclays, very much looking in to bring in this outside talent, but then kind of help them to become part of the company or launch as part of the Barclays app as and when they're ready. And those are the kind of questions that we're starting to ask, which I think is really important, and a lot of other banks are globally as well. And of course, challengers like Starling, or Monzo, having an open marketplace has kind of been part of their ethos from day one. But I think slowly that's kind of reverberating throughout the banking ecosystem.
Fantastic. All right, and the last thing I want to talk to you about, which is a big topic at Money 2020 in Singapore this year, was the platform ecology model. Do you think European banks should move to this Asia model and move all the customer services onto sort of one application? What do you think about that?
I think the platform model is very provocative because it enables so many user benefits. So on the one hand, customers want an easy way to manage their financial lives. So if you can securely integrate these various services into one app to help customers manage all through one place and have that kind of clarity around all the different products and services they use, that's a win. And so what we look at in banking is how do we enable that in a really intelligent way? Because when you look at financial products, they're typically just more complex than other products. So accessing them and managing them takes another layer of data and information to do so effectively. So it's a very exciting idea. Lots of people are working on it. And I think that honestly will become one of the next ways that banks continue to grow. But with that, not everyone can be the super app. Not everyone can be managing everything inside of one place. So I think there will naturally be category leaders that come to market. And others should embrace the fact that banking is becoming increasingly invisible. And maybe they don't need to do everything through just that app, but they should embrace the fact that they might manage or make payments through external sources as well. And that's positive as long as it helps customer to achieve their goals.
Well, Megan, some really good advice there. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Great. Just going